Okay, sure. Yeah, so did everybody get a chance to see the proposed agenda for today? All right. So hopefully we'll make a some relatively quick progress with um this because there's a lot of topics on here. The first topic on the list was spurred by we had a PR from the community where it sort of got left and wasn't acted on, and I think that there were a few of us who didn't really know how to bring that to a final state. So we were talking in guiding values about how we could make sure that contributions either get moved towards acceptance or rejection. So we have a proposal for that, and want to see what everybody in this group thinks. So that was the first topic, is that for any contribution that there would be a pull request, and then that PR must be sponsored by a member of the TSC to be considered for merge. And that can include RFCs, which themselves are not necessarily final components of the spec. So, and then if a PR is sponsored, it gets added to the agenda for the next TSC meeting, or we can pull an ad hoc and just vote via Slack, either one. But that would be the basis for getting something considered. There were a couple of questions beyond that, whether or not what we wanted to consider as constituting a quorum. Like, do we want to have it be 5 people? Do we want to have it be 11 people? Does it have to be during a TSC agenda? And then the other topic was if we're going to allow no votes against without justification. So I wanted to open up and ask if there's any interest in discussion on either of those two topics. And once we finish that discussion, we can make a decision on this matter. Does anybody have thoughts on any of this that they would like to bring up?
I like the sponsor idea. I think it's great that people can actually sponsor something but go through some kind of a process. I know that something, yeah, PR was created, and but
Martin's idea.
yeah, we need to we will have to find a way to advertise this process as well, because I think this is also where we will need to make a little bit of progress.
If we do this, we would definitely update the contributing dot markdown.
Yes. Should we go for a vote or?
Yeah, I just one comment for me. Like, I think it all sounds good. The only thing maybe to comment on is how many votes we need for acceptance. I feel like we should maybe start with like quite a high bar, and hopefully we'll get consensus. And if that doesn't work out, we can always make it lower. Like if we find out we're not approving any overseas. But if we do get an RFC where it's like 5 votes for, 6 against, or something like that, that we'd probably rather have more discussion than have it as a decision and try and get a consensus. But I think everything else sounds good to me.
So we have 9 people on the chat today. So I think for Andrew's suggestion of quorum, then what we would consider is requires 5 TSC affirmative votes for an acceptance. Anything else on either the questions of quorum or justification on no votes?
No, I think it's 5 is great. I mean, simple majority is great as a quorum. Yeah.
All right. Cool. Well, let's start voting on this. So yes, we'll just go around the room. I vote yes for this.
Yes. Mhm.
Yes.
Yes, I do.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes, for me too. Yes.
Yeah, for me.
Well, that was easy. Right. So measure passes. So
Don't get used to it, Todd. Yeah.
I know. I don't know. Seems like we're pretty good at this. All right, we'll get an update to the contributions document to out to explain this to the community, and then hopefully that makes it so that everybody knows, hey, tag people on the TSC. Okay. So next item on the agenda, has everybody had a chance to look at the document that Andrew put together? Has a lot of material in it, but specifically we wanted to look at the guiding values segment. So here,
Didn't, but don't let that be a delay.
okay. All right. Apparently I hadn't let Zoom do sharing before. All right, I'll be right back.
Now we need 4 votes.
All right. So specifically, we were going to uh, speak to the question of the guiding values here. So there were, and really just this small segment here. So there were there was the one comment from Chris on this, but I don't know that that's necessarily something that we need to consider as far as values. So this is it. This is the basics. So do we want to just take this to a vote? Do we accept this as the initial guiding values for ODCS?
I think this is great. It's simple. It's reflecting. It's reflecting. The kind of the when I was reading that, I was reading a little bit the Agile Manifesto in some way. I think I saw some similarities with it. I think it's yeah. I great. I like that a lot myself. So I don't know if you're looking for someone to second for a vote, but I would second.
Maybe to add to that. So what should the guiding values do? They should help us as a TSC members to make decisions easier. That's kind of the general idea. So
Mhm.
we can cite this higher authority of guiding values in some way, and it should reduce the time it takes us to discuss something. That's kind of the goal. That's why they are so crucial, because when you cite them and they apply, it's very hard to argue against.
Mhm.
That's the idea. So this is not a trivial. We say yes, and they sound great. They have a lot of consequences. Of course, we can change it. Obviously, we can change anything, anytime. But that's the idea of these guiding values.
Yeah.
All right. Is there any further discussion on this, or do we want to move to vote? All right. Well, hearing nothing, Andrew, I think you should vote first.
Yeah, but yes.
Since we were discussing it already yesterday, I already make up my mind. So yeah, so
Yeah, you're a sponsor on this.
Simon, yours. Yeah, sure.
Maybe it goes faster if we all vote with the thumbs up.
Emoji, yeah.
Me. Okay.
You can see who has a MacBook or not, who has not.
A MacBook with the latest version of the software.
Yeah.
All right.
This is even like double. Does it count more? Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, look at that.
All right. So measure passes as well. All right. So those were the two decision topics we had for today. After this, we had discussion topics. There's a lot of additional material that Andrew has been compiling for us in this document. And I didn't know if we wanted to go into any further discussion on any aspects of it. He has questions about roadmap for an upcoming standards release. He has questions about what we want to do for adoption. He has questions on how do we want to consider our metrics. So are there any of the topics that are in the document that Andrew's been managing for us that we need to bring up here amongst the TSC?
I think for me, the main one was about making decisions and the values, make sure we got that through. And then, like Simon said, hopefully that'll make decision making easier in future. Because I think that's my main point. That's where I felt was a bit stuck. I'm happy to talk about any of the others if anyone else wants to. Otherwise, we can maybe have, I think it's suggesting the agenda, like maybe start working groups for things like some of the ideas about like adoption or metrics or whether everyone feels passionate about, can start maybe forming working groups around that. But yeah, the main thing for me was the decision making, so I'm glad we got that out.
I think some things that we could put is some kind of timeline, because we're not really software, but we're standard, but it doesn't. We could say that we are aiming at one release a quarter. I remember Andrew. I don't know if Andrew is going to join us. Andy, not Andrew, and Andy from Kenzo is going to join again. But the thing is, one thing he said is that too often is not good. I would argue that not too often is also not good, but maybe we should plan on something like having a quarterly release of the standard, whether it's a minor or a major version, but at least someone is expecting towards it. So, and then we can say, okay, having this sense of not urgency, but this sense of a timeline, it might be easier to say, okay, that's what I want to see in the next version. Okay, so And this is, I'm thinking more about the software vendors here, like Data Mesh Manager and Soda and Data Catering. You have your timeline. You may want to push something. The user side might also want to see things coming in earlier. So, but at least we've got some kind of a timeline this way. It's not really a roadmap, it's more like a timeline, I would say. But that's how I was kind of thinking it.
I second that. And from this vendor head, it's for me basically it's about the V3 version. Because the current version, it's quite stable. I don't expect major changes quickly, but it's more like, when will the V3 be happening? Because that might require a rework in the tooling, because it has major changes. So it's more like, when do we want to have this V3, this version 3? That's kind of where I'm most concerned about.
Yeah, I think the only thing I'd worry a bit about is like if I'm putting out releases for like whether it would kind of incentivize us to put out releases when they might not be that ready or that valuable, or could be incentivize us to keep making changes to a standard when we may not want to or need to. I think personally I'd probably rather standard was quite stable. I wouldn't expect it to change that much, I don't think. The core standard, we might think about, because we're, as we're saying, in the values, we probably want a relatively small standard that's sensible. And if we're going for that kind of approach, then we wouldn't need to be adding things that frequently, because we'll often be saying no because we want to keep it smaller. So I'll be a bit worried about that. And yeah, as a user, I probably favor stability. I probably want a standard that will just keep working for quite a long time. I wouldn't want to have to update it, upgrade it, just unless there was something valuable to do that. I think the argument for having lots of or regular releases is to show that the project is active and give people confidence that things are moving forward. But I think we could do that in other ways. I had some ideas in the docs about like maybe regular articles, maybe set up a blog, things like that. Other things we could do to try and make the project look active without having to tie ourselves to making releases when we don't necessarily need to.
I mean, those are both great points. Simon, when you're saying V3, do you have things you would like to see in V3s that are not there yet? I know that we had this discussion about the lineage, the people lineage in a way, but is there things that you were expecting to see in V3?
So it was more like a meta perspective. So I did expect that V3 is a major revision, because it's like the first version that the whole group here is behind, completely behind. Whereas the initial contribution is basically from one company with some small changes. And so I did expect, when we come together as a group and everybody bring their contribution, it's a lot more scrutinized, and came under scrutiny and changed it. That's kind of my thinking. I don't have any specifics in my mind right now, but that's kind of my thinking. And because of this major change, it really depends on, well, from a vendor perspective, should I adopt this right now as it is? And then basically, are they just two different standards, or how far is V2 and V3 apart? That's kind of the idea, because we started out with a great foundation from one company, and then now everybody comes in, and that's kind of my thinking behind that. So no, specific thing because, yeah. Does it make
Well,
sense?
it makes sense.
Yeah.
So there's, okay, we're mostly engineers here, but the thing is, so we can say, oh, okay, it's going to be a breaking change, and then we're going to go V3, but V3 can be provoked by something else as well. Okay. For example, I know that the Linux Foundation has a standard specific, a license specifically for standard. So when I started working with them, they said, okay, well, you start with Apache 2, which is great, but down the road, we would like you to adopt a new license. Okay. And honestly, I don't remember the name of it, but which is a more appropriate for standards than for software. So it could be that we could just say, hey, we're taking what we have now. Okay, we all review it very closely of what we want to keep, what we want to reject. We change the license, and that's V3, and that's the first version of what we have. It's a little bit of a cheat, okay? It's a little bit of a marketing hack, but then it would accelerate this discussion eventually, Simone, as well. I'm not saying we should do it. I'm just throwing out the idea here. I'm not even completely convinced we should do it, but it's a way.
I don't know the answer either. It's just just this feeling behind that, and how to make the decision. Should I as a vendor adopt what it's right there and say this is it?
Well,
And this would and when the thing is, when you start creating a lot of tooling, the standard becomes very hard to change because then all the tooling has to change with it. And so I'm kind of, is this now the great initial release of this group, or does something greater is coming in a few months or a year or something like that? That's kind of where I'm stuck.
I mean, hopefully there's something even greater later. I mean, my thought would be that, you know, the example that struck me when OpenAPI went from 2 to 3, there was a bunch of stuff in it. To me, the thing that really mattered and made it happen was they added webhooks. I mean, and OpenAPI went from being, you know, a polling only structure to being an event structure. So something like that can be a major driver. I think Andrew had a good suggestion earlier that we consider maybe a working group on this, because we have some RFCs, and maybe say, okay, you know, for the RFCs we have, are there things we want to fold in for and work through as a group for, you know, a Q1 or H1 release? And then are there RFCs that we don't have and somebody needs to get to work on writing up? So I guess that would be my proposal is there interest in doing, you know, Simone's run a pretty effective guiding values group. Is there any interest in doing a working group for roadmap?
I would second that, and I would volunteer for animating this group there specifically. So
Yeah, I think it sounds like the decision we need to make really is if we're going to target a V3 with lots of features, or keep iterating what we've got, with lots of differences, or keep iterating what we've got. So I think if we could set that expectation to everyone looking at the standards, that would be quite useful. People thinking about adopting it. And I think I agree with what Simon said, like, and I alluded to in my document, like, given that we become like a new group of people, we might want to take a new look at the standard and just decide what we like, what we think can be improved, and yeah, potentially make quite a lot of big changes. If we think that's the right thing to do, but at least like be open to that and maybe signal that we might do a V3 like that. So yeah, that's probably where I prefer, but happy for a working group to kind of explore this further and then come with a proposal.
So I think it's a great way to have a focused working group on the roadmap. I have like a small side topic here. So we started out with the guiding values working group, which now has succeeded in bringing guiding values to here. So check mark. But we have this regular weekly meeting. And I would like to rename this as a simple like weekly meeting where we try to push ODCS forward and Bitol forward as an offering. So anyone who wants to go there can go there. I would host this or manage the calendar thing, the Teams meeting, and we just work on what's important, what the people bring. And I would rename it. I don't know. I don't have a good name for this working group. It's like I've just the weekly meeting basically to make progress.
The Linux Foundation called that outreach, if that's so. It's kind of all the marketing effort, all the involvement with the community, and all this. If I understood you correctly, Simon.
Yeah, I would focus it more on the standard itself, but we can also discuss yeah, anything actually. Yeah, we can.
Or it's just a working meeting. You know, you can
Weekly,
just
weekly working meeting.
yeah.
It's yeah. Okay, I will rename it. Rename the channel. I hope I can do that. I'm not sure. And rename the meeting, and we'll publish an info if that's okay. No one has a veto.
All good.
I
There
think
again, it's on Mondays, every Monday at 4 p.m. CET, or I think it's 10 a.m. EST. And Peter, I'm sorry.
Ema.
all right. Well, I mean, it sounds like we have at least a good working group context to keep everything moving. So that's good. I think in that, hopefully we'll that sort of will cover the next topic on here, but just to sort of make sure I state it formally, there's a with the aim of getting another release out at some point, there's the question of any RFCs. So if anybody has topics that they want to bring up for discussion, we should get the RFCs into the repos for discussion and for consideration. So there was sort of a minor topic that also came up during the guiding values, is direct edits of the TSC repo or use of pull requests. I think that there's my general preference is I always like to see things done with pull requests so that you know that you have you know it's had at least a second member of the TSC looking at anything and understanding the changes, and it's sort of public. I think that there are certainly minor cases like updating your time zone in the members markdown that don't necessarily require that, which Simone was making the point of. But does it, anybody, maybe we can come to a decision on this. Do we want to do pull requests for any updates to the repos that have any substantial significance, like updating a document, or are we okay with accepting that the members of this group just will have and may sometimes just go in there and make edits? So that's sort of open discussion question.
I think we have several repos. I would say that the ODCS itself should always go through pull request if we have a modification. And I plead guilty. I've made some modification without special in the README or in typos or things like that, but I think I should not do that anymore. But for the TSC, I would say if you have to go through a pull request every time you've got to modify an RFC before it goes to vote or things like that, that's going to be a very painful process. So that, and I'm not a Git expert to that point to know if we can have different rules per repo or if it's company-wide. Bitol is considered a company. But I guess you can do that.
What we've done previously when using GitHub for IOCs is that the discussion was actually in the PR rather than in GitHub, because you can't really do discussions in GitHub anyway, or even in PR, it's not that easy, but so eventually moved away from it. But yeah, you can't really add comments that easily on a markdown in a Git repo, in a GitHub repo. So we used the discussion in the PR, we could at least comment on lines. It still got quite messy, but that might be better than having the RFCs committed directly and then discussion happening elsewhere. So at least it's in one place. If you want to keep using GitHub for RFCs.
Yeah, I think I was looking for some sort of discussion about the data types, which we were talking about, I think, last time. And we had the RFC up, but I didn't see where we were discussing it or whatnot. I was searching for a PR. I was like, oh, did it already get closed? So yeah, I think I prefer the pull request approach, because then you can, close off discussions as part of the PR, as part of GitHub as well. So, you might discuss a single point and everyone says something, and then you might make the change, and then you can close off that point as well there, which makes it a bit cleaner. Yeah.
It's of course a way to to try that. GitHub has a little bit of a barrier, so we are all technical people, so I don't think anybody here has an issue here, but thinking about contributions from outside, from more business kind of people. So because they have to understand a lot to getting what's a pull request and how does it work. Maybe an alternative is well, using Google Docs for RFCs, because it's one of the simplest interfaces, and it's about text. We don't have really code. That's just an alternative, but we can also simply say, let's go with a GitHub approach. We are techies. We can do that, and we take into account this barrier that we might create, and that's fine.
I think given that one of the TSC members will be sponsoring the RFC, that person would create it on behalf of someone potentially from business side anyway. So as the sponsor, you're the one that just raises the PR, I guess. Yeah.
But I don't mind an hybrid approach. Okay, so something like starting in Google Docs, and then ending up when it's mature enough according to the sponsor, putting it back in GitHub at that point. That would probably also be a solution.
I think that's sort of what Peter was saying. So is like, yeah, when it's not an engineer, we'll help them out.
So I like essentially this idea. So use Google Docs as working. You can change things very quick, put a lot of different things next to each other, think about it, and more or less when the other process is then more or less like a release candidate.
Yeah, yeah.
I like that.
I would say if we have something like this going, it should definitely also get posted in Slack so that anybody who's not tied to it can find it.
But if we make GitHub so essential for the working of the TSC group, I would say we have this LACMOS test. So everybody has to add themselves to the members list because it verifies that everybody has access to add themselves to the members list.
And they have a limited time to do it.
Let's.
By the way, Simon, from my side, I ate myself, but it does not work. Yeah, so it's just
Yeah, I don't have permission.
I messed up the pull request actually.
Yeah, if that was a pull request though, I would have commented saying maybe instead of having like CET, you might have like Europe/time zone because some countries change their time zone during the year. So I have to keep updating it every 6 months.
And even remove the time zone because I got another source. ChatGPT sent me a Google Docs or Google Excel, whatever that. Where we had that for the TSC, and it's not something that we have to make public. It's just, but I do like having the list there and all the consequences of ensuring access.
Yeah, so do we want to record that? Everybody needs to be in the members.md file. Okay, if you're not doing it yet, please do it. I know I have to add some people. Am I the only one that can add people to the repo, or I told everybody on the TSC as soon as you're on the TSC, you're admins, but I'm not sure. If you need or want more rights, just tell me. Okay, the thing is, I'm not an expert at GitHub rights management.
You're the only owner on it right now. So.
Okay, so I'll add the group of TSC to as owners if I can do that.
I don't have access to add anyone.
Okay. Okay, I'll do that if I find out to do it. And so that was one thing. And the second is we start RFCs to try to sketch a process. We start new RFCs in Google Doc. We advertise them on Slack. And when the sponsor decides that is of enough quantities, and we put it in GitHub, and then we can finalize it in GitHub. All right. I see some nods, so I'll take that for yes. Okay.
I love this.
Back to you, Todd. What's next on the agenda?
That's it. That's victory, everybody. Good job.
Wow. So we are getting faster than when I'm sick. It's good to know. So I had a discussion with, so it's not to make a decision now, but to keep in mind. I had a discussion with Andrew back on then about trying to find a symbol for a data contract. And I like the triangle because it's simple um, and we can detail how we want the symbol to be but the idea was really to find something that people could actually recognize sorry, easily. So just to show you what it could be looking like. This is what Andrew sketched. But it could be in this direction or the other direction. The idea is I've been starting to use triangle as well at some point, but I've also used just as an icon for a file. But I think it would be nice to have some things that people can identify to and can easily put in a diagram, saying, "Oh, that's a data contract." Okay. makes the communication a lot easier. So I think this group needs to work on that, or needs to decide whether this is something we want to push forward and try to align to it, so there's more industry recognition about it as well.
What's the reasoning behind the triangle? Is it because of the triangle of the AIDA, or where does the
No, the reasoning was because it was simple. It was I was drawing how it started is I was drawing some pipelines, and I said that, okay, we can have a contract at the input of the pipeline, and we can have a contract as the output of the pipeline, and I started putting them as triangle because they were really easy to draw there, and as you know, as markers. And if you see the video I did for IBM, it's a very quick video where it tells a story about my son, blah 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 blah. I use triangles there to define data contracts as well. So there's no link to IDA there. Yeah, just because it was a simple shape that is not used too much in diagramming. Now we don't have to, I don't want to act today, okay? It's just to start you thinking about something that could use to represent something, okay? So, and that can be easily taken. It's in every library. If I had a choice to do, I would avoid Comic Sans in any of the technical diagram, but that's something that is really dear to me. You will never see me using Comic Sans. I don't think I'm a clown. Okay, so but anyway, that's just for me.
Yeah, I think this is good one we can talk about in a sec. I think actually, and yeah, I may have put too much in my document because I alluded to my document, but like we probably could do, if anyone's interested, like with a working group around, I don't know what to call it, like around adoption, but like thinking about logos, website, blogs, things like that. Like how do we actually start talking about what we're doing and showing what we're doing to try and get people interested in this outside our group? So it could be an idea for a working group if someone's interested in leading that. It's like, yeah, the visibility side.
And I think I misunderstood what Simon was saying just before, but the thing is, Andrew, that could be the outreach committee, okay?
Yeah.
Evangelization, communication, standard ways of communicating, eventually websites, things like that. So, but just food for thought, okay? So just don't want to shock everybody, but I think if all our documents start to look a little bit more similar, then it's also favoring adoption. That's it. I had nothing else.
Thanks for sharing. I still fight in my head with this document shaped icon against the triangle. It's kind of a war fighting. Don't know yet. Just a few short feedback there. Not sure whether others have the same issue.
I just found a flat icon thing here, which is data contract and just shaking hands to more or less to stress the contract thing. Yeah? But I asked myself if it's JGP, I just hear you like it. It's super puristic. Yeah, it's a little bit more playful. Yeah? Just a second, I try to make a screenshot out of that.
Yeah, I've seen various things, or just a file, or the handshake, or the triangle, or I mean, it could be anything. It's just food for thought. Okay, we don't have to decide now, but I think that thinking that the idea we could in our communication, in the way we communicate, having something that is kind of standard is yeah, that's a nice one. And it's also cost and loss, which I like, the cost and loss price of it.
I would replace with 3 lines which represent text with, say, a logo which represents try to represent data. I'm not sure what, maybe a database icon or something like this. Yeah. Then we have this data part and this contract part.
Yeah.
But just an idea. I would just shoot to my mind.
Yeah, let's just keep all of them coming, and so.
Yeah.
All right.
If you think of Jean-Marc Degani has coined the hexagon as the data product icon. Would be cool if we could do the same for data contracts in some way.
That was a bit the idea. Yes, that was some kind of the motivation behind it. And something almost as simple as the hexagon. But the hexagon is not. She's coming from an hexagon architecture. Okay, that was her original thinking, but which is not that widely known. But that was what she was thinking. Anyway, okay. So, see you all next Monday. Thanks
See
for
ya.
joining.
Bye.
That was a great
See ya.
meeting.
Bye.
Bye,
Bye.
guys.
I vote to close this meeting.
Who's the sponsor of that?
The last on is a sponsor. Okay, I'm leaving.
Okay.